What's up, fitness business nerds? Today I'm speaking with Jess Bottesch. She is a fantastic business owner. She's been doing this for a while. She's the co-owner of Empower Personalized Fitness. She co-founded that company with her best friend and business partner, Rhonda Williams, in about 2004. So they've been doing this for a long time. And Jess has just so much passion and so much confidence comes across in our conversation today about how she runs her business, which I found very inspiring. We talk about a lot of topics, but some of the highlights for me were she shared the systems that she uses in her business to create a culture in her gym. We talk a little bit about how she handles conflict, her approach to handling conflict with her team and with clients. We also talk a little bit about, and this topic has been covered several times in this podcast, the importance of having consistent, organized, targeted meetings in your business. And so we cover that and so much more. So if that sounds fun for you, keep on listening. The Business for Unicorns podcast is for fitness business owners who want actionable strategies to grow their business, take amazing care of their clients, and build a life and business they truly love. I'm your host, Michael Keeler, co-founder of Mark Fisher Fitness, and through Business for Unicorns, I'm a coach and consultant to industry-leading fitness studios around the world. Let's get started. Hello, fitness business nerds. What's up? Welcome to today's podcast. I'm really excited to be talking to Jess Bottesch today. She is the co-owner of Empower Personalized Fitness in, I think it's Durham, North Carolina. And I'm excited to talk to her today about all things fitness, all things business coaching, all things COVID. We're going to talk about it all. And so without further ado, let's welcome Jess to the virtual stage here. Jess, hello. Welcome.
Oh, hi. Glad to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me today.
Well, I'm really excited. I've been in the fitness industry, I can now count in decades. And I love just kind of sharing my journey and sharing some of the things I've learned along the way.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I know you've crossed paths with Mark a lot in the speaking circuit and conferences and things, but you and I have never gotten to connect. So I'm so excited just to be to nerd out with you today and learn everything that you have to share. So, I mean, first things first, I'm asking all my guests this these days because this last year has been insane. But being a brick and mortar fitness business owner and doing online things as I know you do, and coaching other entrepreneurs and business owners, all those things. Over the last year of COVID, what have you been learning about your businesses and about yourself? I know it's a big question, but let's start there.
Okay, yes, that is a loaded question, in fact. Well, first and foremost, I think that when we first learned of COVID and COVID started to become a real thing, we actually service a lot of medical professionals. And so we kind of had some tips before the government even started to say, we need to start to close down fitness businesses. We actually closed before that to be safe in the thought that it was going to be a 2-week closure. We were just going to assess things for a couple of weeks. Months later, when we were still closed, we looked back and we never really regretted that decision because we really were taking the health of our staff and of our clients in consideration when we made that move. And really, I think how we survived this year is that we employ a bunch of people who are very kind of innovative and they have an entrepreneurial mindset, even though they are employees of our business. And they were all able to, with us together as a team, pivot quickly. And I also think that our clients really wanted to support us in that. And so when we introduced virtual training, like just one day we were open, the next day we were closed, and we're just like, we'll see you tomorrow on Zoom. And they really most of them were able to get on board, and that really helped us survive financially this year. There have also been so many other challenges that we have had to overcome, and I think all of us have had to kind of deal with this higher level of stress and really what that means to our physical health, our emotional health, our mental health. And one of the things that we have tried to do as a team is continue to support each other through that and really extend each other grace and try to levy each other when one person was kind of going through something a little bit a harder patch than another, and really kind of be there and support each other through it. And so I think that those have been, really coming together as a team and kind of, we had this whole mantra throughout the year, and that was together we are strong.
Yeah,
so really
beautiful.
leaning on that.
Yeah, that's really well said. I mean, good for you. I'm so glad you were able to pivot successfully online and really lead your clients in that path. I know it's not always been an easy path for many people I'm talking to, and it sounds like you've done it really well. So
Right.
yeah, bravo to you. Yeah, let's just talk a little bit about that last thing you just mentioned, which is the fact that you really have been trying to, indoctrinate in your team the sense of like, we're stronger together. We can lift each other up when each other is stumbling. And it seems like, I'm guessing your team is very close. I'm
Yes.
guessing your team's very connected. And that, that speaks to the culture that you've created there. I know it's a topic that you like talking about a lot. And so just talk to me a little bit. How do you create a culture like that? How do you create an environment where people care about each other, not just as colleagues, but as people? That's easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah. So this idea of creating this unified and this team culture really for us started in the inception of our business when we started to think about what model do we want? Do we want an employee model or do we want a contractor model? And for us, we really did want that kind of team environment where it wasn't like just survival of the fittest or these are my clients and those are your clients. And so we decided at that point to go with an employee model. Now, saying that, I still believe you can have this same sense of culture and team in a contractor model. I think it is definitely doable. We chose a employee model, and we really have had this sort of team environment. Like every client that walks in this door is not Blaine's clients or Amanda's clients or anything. They're all Empower clients. And we kind of have this Cheers type environment, which maybe some people listening to this don't know that analogy. Anybody that walks in, it's like they're like Norm, right? We're going to know everybody's name, and we create this community of people that feel like they belong here and that they know everybody, in our community and in our studio. And so it started back then. It really started then. And then the other thing I'll say about culture is you have to be intentional about culture and you have to be specific. I mean, I think we'll talk later on just about how we really have created a lot of systems in our business, and our systems have been the key to our success. And even culture has been we've created a system around our culture. We very intentionally sat down together as a team and outlined a culture statement. Like, what does it mean to be part of this community, and what is it that we are intentionally putting out there? And we stick to those. That sort of become this credo for us, and we can also weigh a lot of decisions against our culture. Like both when we're interviewing for people, like do they really fit into our culture, and also when we're deciding what services to offer or outside strategic partners to partner with, we really do make sure that it's a good cultural fit for us. And so the team environment and this really supportive, diverse and sort of inclusive environment is important to us, as well as some other points that have to do with integrity or racial equity, or so we have a lot of different parts of our culture, team being one of the strongest ones.
Yeah. I think there's so many great takeaways just from what you've said so far, Jess, right? The idea that, making sure that all your team feels like they're on the same team and trying to minimize that sense of competition that I often see at places, which is, a little bit harder to do if you're all contractors and actually competing for the next client that walks in the door. So I think the employee model does lend itself a little bit more to that we're all on the same team vibe. But you're right. You can accomplish it if you're intentional about it, no matter what your model is. And I love that you use that word several times, that, if you really want to create a culture, you have to be intentional about what do you want to create. And you mentioned a few components like your kind of culture mantra or culture statement, which is useful. You also mentioned the idea of like using that statement and I think I was reading between the lines of some of your values in hiring. So what are the other components of culture? What are the components of the system that help you kind of stay on path to creating the kind of culture you want to make?
Well, so the other thing I'll say about culture that may answer this question a little bit, but the other thing I really, when I talk to other people about creating a culture, is it also can be your USP. It can be one of your unique selling propositions, because let's face it, there are other personal training studios that are offering personal training services. And what makes your personal training service different than somebody down the road? And there definitely you can niche and focus on a really specific population. There are other ways that you can kind of create that USP. But I mean, I know this just from what I know of Mark Fisher Fitness. culture matters. Somebody sees themselves in that environment, right? And so same thing here. We have created this culture where, we are, and I've talked about it a little bit before, an open, inclusive environment. We care about racial equity. And so other clients who care about that, when they see that stuff, that has nothing, well, I think everything has to do with racial equity. But I mean, it's not that that's a statement that somebody, when they're really first thinking about, I'm trying to find a personal trainer, would think about, but it could be something that it's a core value that other people hold close. And when they see that, they say, I see myself there, right? Mm-hmm. And another thing that culture is another thing that can help you attract the people that you want to have and you want to be involved with. And let's be honest, as fitness business owners, one of the things that we are seeking is freedom. And one of the freedoms that we like to talk about is this people freedom. And that means getting to choose who you spend time with. And your staff and your clients, you spend sometimes more time at work than you do with your family, right? So you want to like and resonate with and have the same values as your staff and your clients. And so when you create a culture that attracts other people that you enjoy and you resonate with, enjoy being around and resonate with, that just increases your own personal happiness, right? And the personal happiness of the other people on your team. I think nothing points this out more than when you have somebody that doesn't really fit, and that becomes this sort of like, stone in your shoe, right? Where you're just kind of like, oh, there's a rub there, and it can create discord. So, I think that by creating a system, you attract the people that you want in your business, and I think that's another huge component of why creating an intentional culture is really super important.
Yeah, I think that's really well said, Jess. I'll just underline what I think is the core message there, which is, you create the culture based on who you let in. Mm-hmm. Right? And the culture is a reflection of all the people that are in it. So who you let in terms of employees and clients, and who you highlight on your website and who you highlight on social media reflects, who you want to be in the culture, and hopefully attracts people who see themselves in it already. And I think when it comes to things like diversity, inclusiveness, all those things, that I think that's a great first step to building a culture that looks like the people that you want to attract, which is hopefully everyone, but for the purpose of marketing, not exactly everyone. Yeah, well said. Well, let me ask you this about culture, because every culture has conflict. In every culture, it's not, most cultures I know are not just full of kumbaya days after kumbaya days. And I know you had mentioned in previous to our conversation today that one of your strong suits is being comfortable with conflict. And I think that's huge. It's really an important skill set to develop when you are a leader of a community, a leader of creating a culture. So talk to me a little bit about what's your approach to conflict, and how have you gotten so comfortable, or relatively comfortable, dealing with conflict?
Yeah. And one thing to understand, I think, about conflict right away is that everybody has a different conflict. I mean, a different level of comfort with conflict, right? Yeah. Not everybody is high on the conflict comfortable scale, right? Totally. And that's one of the things that we do is we do an annual team retreat. And one of the things that we do is we analyze our team members' conflict comfort. And so that we just know how to communicate with those people who are high on, are high with being comfortable with conflict. You can kind of go to them with direct information right away and just, and they can handle it. Whereas somebody who may be lower on the comfort level with conflict, you just need to approach it a little bit in a more soft approach, right? And so how we even came to this is we read Patrick Lencioni's 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And, he really, one of the things he talks about is being open and vulnerable, and really having a team that trusts each other enough to be able to come to each other with conflict or resolve conflict in a comfortable and respectful way. And so we really have worked through that whole process, and instead of fearing conflict, we actually embrace it. And so we have time set aside in our team meetings where we address issues, where we just have a whole thing like, let's address issues. Let's, is there anything what's working well, what's not working well? Or is there something that somebody has done that is is causing an issue. I've learned from another mentor at some point that, you want to address things when they're just flags, not frustrations, because the kind of trajectory is it can be a flag, which is just a nuisance or an annoyance. Then it becomes a frustration, then your anger starts to build, right? Or resentment, maybe at that point, just resentment. And then it can become fury. And you do not want to wait until you're in a furious rage to address an issue. And it's much better to address it at the flag stage. And so we really try to do that. The other thing we feel is that conflict makes us better. Like when we're not all on the same page, there might be good input. If I come up with a program and somebody just doesn't understand a piece of it, on our team, it's good for them to come and approach me about that, because it could be that clients don't really understand that either. And so we can really elevate one another when we work together, even through disagreement.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, conflict is so necessary on teams. I think, most good dialogue has a little bit of tension, right? Most creativity and innovation requires a little bit of friction at some point along the line. And I think, what you said early on, I think is such a great takeaway for our listeners and viewers here, which is that not everyone in your team's going to have the same attitude about conflict. They're not going to be in the same place. So learning about how each other deals with conflicts, and you can do that in a number of ways, just from retreat exercises, like doing things like there's a workplace version of people's love languages. That'd be a good place to start for something like this, which is kind of fun. And it's no one takes it that seriously, but it's kind of fun to see how other people like to be celebrated and treated. And that can be a great way to get people on the same page. But yeah. But I think it's really smart, because ultimately, we want to fan the flames of healthy conflict. But the other point you made, I think, is so valuable, which is you can only really address conflict, a positive thing that you can learn from, if there's some degree of psychological safety in your culture, that people feel safe enough to be able to express the fact that they have a different view or opinion. And creating that space, this psychologically safe enough space where people can be brave, that is often the work of us as leaders, to make sure that when there is conflict, we can deal with it well. So right. I'm so glad you brought up that fact. It's so important.
And together as a team, we actually come up with conflict norms. So we came up with this is how we're going to deal with it. This is a respectful way in which, and so everybody knows what to expect. And I think when people know what to expect, they're much more comfortable. Like you said, they feel comfortable and safe in that environment.
Yeah.
They know.
Jess, can I ask you for an example? Just give me an example of an expectation you've set around conflict. So something happens where two people on the team are maybe disagreeing between a team member and a client. What kind of expectations have you set for how that gets handled?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I've always said is I have an open door. And so we really encourage people to address it directly with the person that they're having a conflict with first, in a very respectful way. Like, hey, can we chat? And just really saying that, owning your feelings. Like, when you do this, it makes me feel this way. However, what I like to do is say, I have an open door. So if you want to come and do a role play with this conversation before you go address that person directly, that is fine. But initially, I do encourage them to address it with, especially if it's staff member to staff member. Sometimes with clients, I really do prefer that they run the scenario by somebody else on our team first, just to make sure that there's not some misunderstanding, or just so that we kind of can talk through it first. But in any case, initially, I really like the two people who are having a conflict really address one another in a respectful way. If they still are at an impasse or not really able to see things eye to eye, then and we let them decide, do you feel like this is a scenario or something that we should discuss as a team, or is it more just something that you would like my help talking through? And then at that point, really just being a great listener. I think that's true with any part of conflict, is that you need to have everybody involved needs to have their ears open wide, right? And hear what the other person is saying. And sometimes perspective matters too, is really trying to see the issue from the other person's perspective. And I think that's huge when in any conflict, right? This is where it goes outside of fitness business, at home, with your children, with a partner. It really is important to understand where this person might be coming from. oftentimes on teams, you know these people well, you know some of their historical background, so you may understand more why they have an issue with that specific thing, and really try to, understand that when you're dealing with the issue at hand.
Yeah. There are so many great tips there, Jess, for our listeners. I mean, one is just, is making sure that you address early, like you said earlier, before things become too big of a deal.
Yeah.
That if two people on the team have something going on, that you encourage them to talk first, right? To be respectful of each other, to listen to each other's perspective, to actually own their feelings, to make sure they own how the thing makes them feel. And to also, I love the suggestion you had there of using someone like you to practice the conversation, right? That's really useful. And I think really important when you're dealing with clients as well, to make sure that's as smooth as possible. And so those are so many great tips. I think, often people think about conflict in their business, their approach is so reactive. And what I'm hearing from you is that, not only are you anticipating that conflict will happen, but you're telling your team, here's how we're going to handle it when it does happen. We're actually going to practice. We're going to role play. We're going to understand each other's relationship to conflict. Actually, my door's open. Come practice with me before you have the conversation. Here, and we do the same thing in Mark Fisher Fitness. We've practiced all kinds of role playing and scripts and scenarios for things that can go wrong. Oftentimes when we do this, we have them write down like a conflict they've actually experienced in the last month or two. And then we pass those cards around and other people practice those scenarios because they're happening. You don't need to look far for things where people are not getting along or things aren't working. So that's really great. I love that. Well, let's move on to another kind of component of running the business. This is actually, I think, a really important part of culture as well, and which is meetings. Team meetings is a topic that I think for most people is not a sexy topic. So listeners, don't stop listening now that I brought up the topic of meetings. And for the most part, meetings just get a bad rap because most of them are done poorly. I've worked enough places with just crappy meetings, ones where I didn't feel like I needed to be there, where it was disorganized. No one had thought about what we were doing. It was not a good use of anyone's time, didn't go very far into helping solve problems. So meetings get a bad rap. But meetings, when done well, can be a really powerful contributor to a really great workplace culture. So talk to me a little bit about, how do you think about meetings in your business, and what have you done that you think works?
I would honestly say that, one of the systems that we teach about are team systems. And obviously there's a lot of components of team systems, everything from hiring through termination. But I would say the key to our success and of having a great team that really works well together are team meetings. And we have team meetings throughout the year. We have an annual team meeting. We have quarterly meetings that are like longer and different in structure. But the biggest, I think, and the biggest win for our team is that we have a regular mandatory team meeting every single Tuesday at 11:30. Everyone on our team is meeting together. And we have a set agenda that we follow. What goes into each slot and of that agenda changes, obviously, depending on what we're working on. But we do that faithfully. And again, that's a time when issues can get handled so they don't fester. And really, I think some of the things that are important is that team members need to know what to expect from the team meeting. They need to be engaging and encourage everybody's involvement. And they need to know, how much time it's going to take, what they're going to take away from it. So those are some of our kind of guidelines with our objectives with the team meeting. The other piece of it with our agenda, what we do is we usually start with a open of some sort, and one of our managers, our training manager, really does a great job of opening the meeting and kind of emceeing the meeting for a part of it. And so he opens usually with something motivational or something that really could strike it. It could be something that's just happening in the world. I mean, we really touch on a lot of different things in that opening segment. And then we kind of go through our different systems. So in our business, we really talk about 4 different main systems: profit systems, and those are your numbers. And those are so important, right? And if we're touching on those weekly, we're keeping track of those. We can sense if things are changing, either for the positive or negative. So that's one of the first things we tackle are our numbers. And we also then assess, what do we need to do differently? So we don't just say, these are what the numbers are. We're going to assess what's happening and what changes we need to make based on those numbers, based on those profit systems. The next would be marketing systems. So what are we doing? What marketing initiatives are we involved in right now? What social media stuff? Do we need content? Do we need you to take pictures or send this in or send that in? So we do a marketing component of our meeting. We do a client component, like who in our community needs celebrating? Who do we need to send a special shout out to? What client issues are we having? Are there client issues that we need to talk through as a team? And then the team component is handling some issues, celebrating different team members. And then we also like to include a CEC component of our meetings. So we are going to go over something educational. We have this idea of like 1% better every day. And so every week we're going to be working on some kind of, continuing education learning during our team meeting. So we have a very set structure. We do it regularly, and we really encourage involvement by everybody and fun. We like it to be fun, right?
Yeah.
So that's the other quote. I mean, it's not that we're necessarily playing games, although I could send some pictures. There are times where when we're meeting in person, we're like, okay, we're playing the pizza game, which is literally like a game of chase where we're chasing people around trying to knock a cone off their hand, just to be funny and silly and fun.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's so great. There's so many great takeaways that I'm hearing. One is just that the consistency of these meetings really matters, right? The consistency of every single week at this time, and then quarterly, and then annually, and then being organized in those team meetings, making sure that you have, whether it's your 4 systems or some other set structure, is something that you're consistently, so people know what to expect. I think you're right that some people don't look forward to meetings because they're just not sure what to expect. They're all over the place. Some feel productive, some don't. That consistency is really important. And then the last thing you highlighted, which I'm such a big fan of, and I want to make sure our listeners really get this, is that meetings need to be engaging. And oftentimes that means there has to be, you have to be asking them to like do more than just sit and listen. Right? To engage, to use their brains, to use their bodies, to maybe even have fun, right? And I think that's just such a key to meetings, that people are so resigned to them just being boring and just getting through it. But when you can think about how do we engage people and get people to really interact with this material, interact with our profit numbers, interact with our clients, that's the makings of a really great meeting. So I'm so glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. And I will say a COVID implication is our meeting has now become virtual and we're doing it over Zoom. And I will say that has affected the engagement that we get. When we're together, there's a more natural propensity to have conversation. And then as soon as we're just on a screen, it has become a little bit more like, okay, the managers are leading the meeting and there's less communication. So one of the things we can do to help that is we can send questions ahead of time. Just say, hey, in the team meeting, I would like to just, this team meeting, we're going to be discussing what's working well and what's not working well. Please come prepared to share. Or we're going to read this article and we're going to talk about it. So if you send something ahead of time and just basically put it out there, like you are going to be talking on this next meeting, and just really kind of encourage the engagement prior to the meeting so that people can like kind of get their minds around that.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great tip, Jess, because not everyone feels comfortable being put on the spot, right? Certainly if you have some introverts on your team, they're not going to feel comfortable coming to a meeting and being like, I don't know what we're talking about, and then being asked to have an opinion or being asked to share their thoughts. So you can prompt them in advance. More people will have time to get ready, and different communication styles might feel more comfortable, which is so smart. That's a great tip. Yeah. Awesome. So I want to cover maybe one more topic before we get to our final 5 questions. This is something that you like talking about, which is marketing, specifically organic marketing, which a lot of people in fitness will tell you these days that organic marketing is just dead. That on social media platforms like Instagram, Facebook, etc., that you really can't get much traction to get in front of new audiences unless you put money behind it. And given all the changes in algorithms, that's mostly true. But I'm going to guess that you're going to make a case for there are still some great ways to do organic marketing. And I would love to hear what you do that you feel like is working. So how do you approach this?
Well, so yeah, and marketing used to be like a 4-letter word for me. I used to be like, oh, I don't want to know anything about it. I'm not a marketer. I didn't go to business school and have, kind of this really stressed out reaction. And then I don't know what changed, but then it became a challenge and something that I really got like geeked out about, like, oh, let me learn more about how this works. And the thing is, I think it is different in the fitness industry. This is one of those things that doesn't necessarily apply the same across all industries. It's not like just deciding where you're going to go eat dinner that night, right? It's a longer sales cycle, because people who are deciding to get involved in usually a fairly expensive investment in changing their behaviors, there's a lot that has to go on in their mind about making that commitment to do that. And so it is a longer sales cycle. And I do think that because of that, it is a very relationship building type of marketing process. And that's why I do think that organic marketing, especially even some offline marketing things, still work really well. So one of the things that we have has worked well for us is, one, engaging the people you already know. So who is already in your network? Who are the people you already know? Well, you already know your staff, you already know your clients. And so they already know, like, trust, and love you. And so do you have the things in place that are going to help turn your clients into raving fans? And so one component of that is a really good supportive kind of client loyalty program, so that you're taking such good care of your current clients that they want to go and tell the world about you. The other part of that is putting into place a really specific referral program. A referral program is one of the easiest and least expensive ways to really get very strong leads. So not just like putting an ad out there on Facebook that maybe thousands of people will see, but it doesn't really have that, if it does pull leads in, they're usually not as strong as a word of mouth referral is going to be. And so a really good referral program is another key component, I think, to a marketing strategy that can help bring warm leads into your business. And then the other component that we do, people that we know, is we develop strategic partnerships within the community with other allied health fitness or allied health businesses. So it might be a chiropractor or a physical therapist, where there's natural synergy anyway. Somebody who is going to a physical therapist may get to the point where they're done with physical therapy, but they're not quite ready to go back to the golf course or go back to their everyday activities. And you are the missing link between discharge from physical therapy and back to regular activities. And when you create strong, and I would say with strategic partnerships, having a few deep relationships and strategic partnerships is better than having a whole bunch of just light ones where you go around and pass your cards out and say, hey, if you refer people to me, I'll refer people to you, and leave it at that. It's better to invest time and energy with a few key people in the community that you really do believe in what they do. And so that if a client comes to you and they have an issue and you refer them to that other practitioner, that they're going to have excellent care, and that's going to reflect well on you. So just to recap really quickly, a customer loyalty program, so you're taking care of your current clients so they can become raving fans. The referral program kind of makes it easy for them to refer, right? It makes it just as easy, like send this out to, you have to create the program that makes it really easy for them to refer. And then another kind of sort of offline strategic marketing thing is developing partnerships with other allied health professionals in your area.
Yeah, those are really great, Jess, and I love that three-prong approach to making sure you're taking care of the existing people that are already in your network.
Yeah.
I think for the interest of time, I want to focus maybe just on one of those a little bit further, because the one that I know that everyone that I talk to in fitness knows they should have, but has a hard time getting it right, is referrals. Okay. Everyone knows they need to referrals. Many people's businesses have mostly grown through referrals. That certainly was the case at Mark Fisher Fitness for many years before we got good at marketing.
Yeah.
And even when you should be doing it and you know how important it is to the business, I talk to so many fitness entrepreneurs who just are like, I just can't figure out how to fan that flame. I can't figure out how to develop a referral engine that kind of consistently works. So what are some things that you've done consistently that have really gotten people to refer other folks to you?
We tend to have we put in place, we've made it systematic, like big about systems. So creating a system around asking for referrals. And so we have it that when basically right before a client is about to purchase again, not necessarily in their first purchase, but then that early on stage when clients are really still like jazzed up about the progress that they're making, and they buy, or actually it's after they buy again, you kind of know that they're really loving this. And so we have actually an email sequence, so we've automated this process now, but I don't think it has to be automated, but it does help your efficiency if you either both automate it or just have it a regular system. When a client gets to a specific point in your client journey, you are going to ask them to refer, and creating a way for them to do it easily, whether it's, I'm going to give you 3 VIP passes, and this can be via email or like nice gold tickets or something like that, where they can hand out 3 so it seems special. But creating a system like that is just routine. Like, we are going to ask for this in a very routine way, like as soon as the client gets to a certain point in their journey. And so that's sort of an ongoing one. And then we tend to run 2 referral campaigns every year, and those have taken different shapes. We just recently did one with the change of virtual, where we now are not restricted by our zip code, right?
Yep.
Or our ideal client lived or worked within 3 to 5 mile radius of our brick and mortar studio. Well, now that's not the case, because we can do things virtually. We can see people anywhere, and we are now training people in Germany and in California and in Tokyo. And, so it's really kind of spread out. And that happened through word of mouth referral campaigns. So we did a help us color in the map referral program, where we asked our clients, who knows somebody in California? Who knows somebody that could benefit from our services? And we really leaned on who needs more accountability in their health and fitness. So we asked them questions like that would make them think of, like, oh yeah, my sister's been really wanting to do this. Well, she lives in Virginia and couldn't come to our studio before, but now she can, because we're going to meet virtually. So coming up with a creative, shorter term, where there's like a sort of some urgency on it, referral program, kind of like, NPR does their drive. We have a couple times a year. We have the routine one that just happens on a regular basis through the client cycle, and then another 2 a year that is more of like for this 3 weeks or this 2 weeks or this month, we're running a client referral drive.
Yeah. Great. I think that's a great process for our listeners to start with, right?
Yeah.
Is that first, just identify those moments in your client's journey where they are the most kind of ripe for this ask, where they that they are enjoying themselves and they're having a good time. Maybe when they re-up on their second purchase, right, or renew, whatever the case may be in your business. I think that's really smart to identify that, and then consistently ask every single person every single time, either in an automated fashion or in a highly personal fashion. Doesn't matter. Just has to be consistent. So I love that you kind of do that on an ongoing basis. And then I'm also hearing that these other campaigns a few times per year that are really specific pushes with different messaging, some urgency attached to them. I think that's really smart. Yeah, those are great takeaways for our listeners. Amazing. Well, thanks so much for that, Jess. Let's try to wrap things up. I want to be respectful of your time, and I want to also get to our final 5 questions. So let's do this. These are the final 5 questions I ask every guest on the podcast. Okay. I changed the questions this year, and they're really just all about you, about Jess. How do you manage yourself? How do you manage your life? What do you like? What are you challenged by in being a fitness entrepreneur? So 5 questions. They're kind of meant to be rapid fire, but you're also welcome to take your time. So here we go. Question number 1, Jess. What is one thing you love about being a gym owner?
I love the interaction with people. I've always been a people person, and they, just kind of helping people kind of lights me up. And how I've helped people changed from when I was an independent trainer helping the client to now I feel like I also help mentor my team. And so I really like the people aspect of the fitness industry.
Yeah. And people keep it interesting, right? There's very few days that are the same. Yeah. I love it. Question number 2, we just were talking about the client experience, client journey. And so in that same vein, question number 2 is, what is the coolest thing you've ever done for a client? What's the coolest or maybe most memorable thing you've done to kind of take care of a client or over deliver for a client?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. Well, I think, and this was one of the coolest experiences with me as well, is I have traveled with a client before to places like New Zealand and China. And so in that it was sort of in a fitness role in that we would like have these really long flights, and then I would like do in the airport, we would be doing like a stretching and yoga session to kind of, it was both of these trips were adventure trips. So I was kind of like the trainer on board to kind of help. And they were phenomenal experiences and trips. And I mean, I think I benefited as much, obviously, as the along.
Yeah, I mean, what a great example. I think, when you can interact with clients outside of the walls of your brick and mortar, I mean, that is an over-deliver experience. It's a way to build a real connection. That's amazing. Cool. Question number 3. This one's about your team. When someone on your team does this, it makes you super happy. So what is a behavior or action when you see it happen on your team? It just really lights you up.
I think for me, because I am an entrepreneur at heart, when I see somebody step up and suggest an innovative way to do something, or suggest a whole new program, or come up with something creative that can really help our overall business, that lights me on fire, because I just see that same spark in them that I know that I have within me. And I love that.
Yeah, fantastic. Amazing. Awesome. Question number 4. We were just talking about marketing, but this question is, what is your most reliable strategy for generating leads? You have to go generate some leads tomorrow. Where is the place you turn to where you can make some progress almost every time?
I really will say word of mouth. We have built just asking our clients to spread the word. I have specific clients where I will call them and just say, hey, can you send out another email to, their, like a Duke is a medical center down here, Duke medical facility, physician, and they will send out a list to a whole bunch of people. And almost always that will bring in not just any lead, but really good, strong leads.
Yeah, fantastic. So back to those things we were talking about earlier. Cool. Last question, and this one's generally broadly kind of about the industry, about the fitness industry at large. This question is, what is one thing you think gym owners can start to do better tomorrow? What's something you'd just love to have all gym owners just start to step up their game on tomorrow?
I really would go back to systems. I see so many in my coaching and consulting side of the business. I see so many businesses that are just flying by the seat of their pants, fly by night. And what it does is it creates so much more work for you as an owner, right? If you could start to systemize things, that's the only way you can safely delegate them to other people, is that they're running smoothly, and then you can pass them off. And slowly but surely, what that helps you do is automate and delegate more things so that you have more freedom of time and eventually hopefully profit and money in your own business. And I think that becomes a sort of a sweet spot and makes it more enjoyable.
Yeah, well said, my friend. That's it. If you can systemize things in the business, you can easily more delegate them, which increases your capacity, which hopefully gives you more freedom financially, time-wise. So yeah, great answer. Awesome. Well, you crushed it. That was a really great final 5. So thank you, thank you, thank you. As we wrap things up, Jess, how can people learn more about you and about your work? Where can we connect them to?
Okay, well, great. Our website is empowerpartnerscoaching.com, and you can find more about the coaching side of the business there. If you want to check out our personal training studio's website, that is becomepowerful.com.
Yeah, amazing. This was so valuable. So thank you so much for sharing your passion, your expertise, your knowledge. You've been doing this for a while, and it shows. So thank you so much for sharing all your great tips today. I appreciate it, Jess. Hey, friends, before you go, just one more thing. If you enjoy this podcast, you get value out of it, you enjoy listening, please share this podcast. Comment below. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. Please share it with friends and family. We don't spend any money on marketing or advertising. And so the only way people find out about this podcast is from you. So please do everything you can to share it with friends and fellow colleagues in the fitness industry. We love making it, and we want to keep doing it for a long, long time. So I appreciate your support. Go have a kick-ass day. Bye.